What's up, guys? This is esfitsrq, your online personal trainer and fitness advice guy. Today we are talking about the push-up. Alright guys, you find yourself struggling with push-ups a lot, okay? A lot of people can't do a push-up how they're supposed to. There's a few things that you want to focus on, and you don't have to worry about anything else. You focus on these few things, and your form will start correcting, you'll start developing, and you're going to be able to move on to more difficult exercises and making the push-up harder and more fun and more exciting to do. Okay? So, first off, I just want to show you what the proper form of a push-up is, okay? There's a few things that I want to highlight and point out. When you are in a push-up position, okay, a lot of times you see, especially with women, they flare their elbows up really high, and it basically starts raising their shoulders up towards their ears, and it hides their chest. They basically hollow out this way, rounding their back when their elbows come up, and they start hiding their chest, and you're not putting tension into those pecs anymore, okay? Which is the point of a push-up, is to be it's a chest developing exercise, okay? So when you flare those elbows, it really starts putting tension into the shoulders, and you're going to start hurting your elbows and your wrists probably a little bit too, okay? So that's one thing. Make sure you tuck those elbows down a little bit. They don't have to be all the way at your side, but about halfway between straight out and all the way down, okay? So about a 45-degree angle like that, okay? The other thing too is your hip placement. Where are your hips in space? Her hips are exactly where they should be, okay? A lot of people, they have their butt too high in the air or their butt too low. And basically, when that happens, this is what happens when that happens. Here, once again, the butt is too high, so all the tension is now running into the shoulders, which is now turning this from a chest exercise into a shoulder exercise. And we'll get into how that can be a good variation for you a little bit later on. But for now, I mean, if you're trying to do regular push-ups, that's entirely wrong, okay? The opposite of that would be this, where your butt is too low, and basically it's just forcing a lot of tension into the lower back. And she's at the top of her push-up position right now because her arms are fully extended. And this is where you'll see that the tension's in the back. If she's laying all the way down and she's at the bottom part of the push-up, it probably looks decent, okay? But then as soon as she starts pushing her upper body away from the floor, her hips should come up too, okay? Everything should be pivoting right here because this is what's touching the floor, and everything should be raising, and this should all be in a straight line. Not a straight line, not a straight line, okay? Here is more of a real-life example of what, maybe beginners, and then some people that have been working with it but have been struggling with their form, might be looking like this. And so, for the most part, this is pretty good form, but there's a few things to note. Her hand position is a little too far forward towards her face. They need to be back just a little bit more, where her palm is, where all that pressure is in her palm, needs to be a little bit further back, and that's going to help keep the tension in the chest once again. Also, you can see her hips are just slightly raised, and her back is a little bit too arched. She needs to support her spine and straighten her spine by tightening her abs and keeping her lower back tight. Right now, her lower back's really tight and her abs are loose, and that's why it's putting her spine in a curve like this, back here, right at the top of her butt. Okay? But for the most part, pretty good. I mean, she's well on her way, but those are some things to note, okay? Now, if you're struggling with the regular push-up, then this would be the perfect modification, the next step easier for you, and so you can work up to the perfect push-up. And basically what they've done is, instead of being on their toes, they're now down on their knees, and they're rocking back and forth from like kind of the top of their knee up onto their quad, or the top of their leg, the front of their leg. And this way, it's just taking some of the body weight out of the movement, which is less resistance, which is making the push-up easier, which means if you are struggling in a few spots with your form, then it's a lot easier to correct it. It's like if you were to try to go and do bench press, and you are trying to push X amount of weight, and your form's so sloppy, but then you try to work on your form without adjusting the weight. It's going to be really hard to fix that form with all of that extra resistance. Okay, you need to bring the resistance down or make the weight a lot lighter so that you can correct those forms and get yourself into the right pattern of movement for that exercise before making it harder. Okay, kind of common sense, but you see a lot of people that just their egos are too high, or they just are ignorant and they don't realize that their form is wrong. So this is a really good way to modify it. Everything else stays the same other than the fact that your feet aren't on the ground. Okay. Now moving on into the variation that I was talking about a little bit ago, about a pike push-up or a shoulder push-up. And basically, there's only one major difference between the form of this and the form of a regular push-up. And that is, notice how the butt is now extremely high up in the air, okay? What this is doing is putting more weight over top of your hands, okay? And now you're fighting all that resistance and gravity, and all the tension's going to be in the shoulders at this point. The pecs are not contracting, they're not flexing and extending anymore. Now it's going to be your shoulders taking on all of that load, okay? So this is really good. A lot of times I'll do like shoulder press exercises, and as soon as I can't do that, I'll drop the weight, and then I'll go into a pike push-up, just because it's a little bit easier than maybe whatever weight I was pushing on a dumbbell shoulder press or something like that. Really great exercise, really good for you, but understand and note the difference between a regular push-up for the chest and a pike push-up for the shoulders, okay? So everything else stays the same. Her elbows are a little bit more flared out now, which, as I told you before, flaring the elbows up and bringing them higher is going to force tension in the shoulder, which is okay when you're trying to do that, okay? Moving on, this is how to modify a pike push-up even more to make it even more difficult, okay? From that picture that we saw right here, just a standard feet on the floor, hands on the floor. If that's difficult but you still want to practice this movement, try it with your hands up on something that's a little elevated, a bench or some sort of flat surface. And basically there's not going to be so much weight over top of you, and the resistance becomes lighter, essentially, okay? So that would be your first modification. It's modifying it a little bit easier than the standard, okay? Now if you want to make it a little bit harder than the standard, this would be your next step, okay? Now putting your feet up on something, putting more weight, your hips are now more over top of your shoulders, and you're fighting gravity and all this extra resistance, obviously becoming more difficult. From here, move down to something that's not a stable surface. In these two pictures, hands and feet are both on very flat, stable surfaces. Now here, stability ball or a Swiss ball is going to want to roll all over the place, so you're really going to have to stay tight through your trunk or your core, which is your abs and your lower back. Everything right here is going to have to be really tight to keep yourself from rolling off the ball. Really good exercise. Now if you want to make it even harder than this, would be to put your hands on something that aren't so stable, like a Bosu ball, which is those half-shaped balls with a flat surface underneath, or medicine balls, or anything like that where it's not stable and you kind of have to start bringing some balance components into the movement. So you work on all of these things. Focus on the flaring of the elbows, keeping them tucked for your regular push-up. Focus on keeping your hips and your spine neutral, okay? Everything should be in a straight line as you do the push-up. This is what it should look like. You shouldn't have your butt way high or your butt real low, okay? It's just not going to be good for you, and it's going to hurt you rather than help you. You practice all of these things, and before you know it, your baby's going to be able to do push-ups. I saw this picture on Google as I was putting this together, and I just started cracking up, and you know what? There it is. You got to get good before you can teach your baby how to do it. But if a baby can do it, you can do it. So, alright guys, if you have any other comments, questions, concerns, you want me to put out a video on a certain topic or whatever it may be, feel free to check out all of my contact information in the description box below this video. Let me know what you're thinking, and I communicate with everybody who reaches out to me. So This is what I love to do. I'm here to help you. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for your time. Make sure you stick around for more. I've got more workouts, I've got nutrition advice, I've got more form help coming out. Hopefully this slideshow helped us out in this video. And until next time, guys, keep smiling. Have a positive attitude. Believe in yourself or else no one else will. Shake some hands. Be happy. Come on. Life is beautiful. Alright? Alright. Until next time, take care. Bye.